All right, we are back. So, for this stream, I think I am gonna be practically trying to redo the image from last one. What I've observed with that one is that um, it didn't feel like there's a lot of connection between the subject and I think the painting in itself is not, it did not feel like it was going in a successful route. Uh, so if I'm gonna mark this up to see the items I need, just to try and correct what I think I see that are um, not contributing to. Okay, so firstly, I need to find a pen. Let's try this one. Okay, so I think there's a huge disconnect between the subject and the viewer because I don't think we would normally see a person from this angle. Um, Instead, I think it would have been better if the subject was sort of, you know, sort of right where we're at, just to feel a certain connection, right? That's what I think. Um, that maybe right here would be the better placement for the train track. Then it might be a better backdrop to have this. But I still think that this is a small painting, and this time I want to just focus on the subject and forget about backgrounds for a bit because it really adds a lot more challenge to what I'm trying to do. So hopefully, if I ever get the subject dialed down, then maybe we can start experimenting with the background. So I think that's where I'll start off with for today. So without further ado, let's just try to construct first with very light color. I was watching another painting video. His name is Stephen Bauman, and I think he's an art instructor. Something that he mentioned is really lacking with watercolors, just the depth of the darkness that you get. And, he suggested that most often it might be better to just start with your darkest value. And I think that's probably what I'm going to try to do today or something similar. So, just so that, I already know my budget as far as like my darkest dark. Okay, so I'll try to keep in mind in my the best of my ability to apply what Kim Jong-gi said is that to treat any medium as you can, as if it's just a pen. So that's what we'll do. Um, so first, I guess we'll construct. Not even sure if it's, maybe this is the better And right now I'm feeling a little bit intimidated because, it's messing with my brain that what I put down is gonna have an effect throughout the entirety of the painting. And I feel like I need to get rid of that and just get into this mindset of playing, you know, and that's what most of the masters often say is just to be, don't be so hard on yourself. So it's a I think it's a long process to get out of this mind of being overly difficult with yourself. So I guess let's just go in for the hat. Okay, and just imagine that what I have right now is a pen. It's not a watercolor, it's not permanent, someone's not paying me. I'm not gonna get fired from, doing this. So maybe he's a that's his paying. Maybe we'll even portray him as a bit of an older man, older person perhaps. Just zoom it in a bit. And I feel like I'm losing a lot of three-dimensionality here with this hat, which is unfortunate, but we'll try to hopefully find a better way to correct that when we start rendering. Okay, so ears would be roughly around this area here. And at this point, I'm not sure if I do I want to give him a pair of glasses or whatnot. But yeah, we also know that older people tend to have larger ears, so maybe it's only appropriate that we settled for this. Mm, What else? Now I'm trying to decide what kind of post do I want to have him in. Um, because as you can see, I only have limited amount of paper here. Hmm. Because I really have a hard time imagining um, an older person would have enough mobility to pose in this sort of way where they're like seated with their seated cradling their legs or their knees. Like it's kind of hard for me to imagine that an older person would be able to have, like a regular old person would be able to pose in that manner. Perhaps if, they're still flexible or um, athletic, maybe. But for this instance, I do want to portray sort of like a frail, weakened older person who maybe just, is low in spirits. And maybe we can even make him a little bit skinnier. Perhaps I don't even have to finish the entire body here. Maybe he could just be sort of seated with majority of his back shown. So I think that's what I'm going to try to do here. And maybe we'll have a little bit of sagging with the neck. Now, initially I was thinking of, having him hold some sort of like a newspaper, but I did mention that I wanted to show like a more frail or older weakened person. Maybe the better option would be for him to sort of hold a cane or something that helps support him getting up from his seat. So that might be a better option for our subject here. Now, when it comes to hands, I really have a hard time with them. So often I'd even see myself trying to reference from my own how a person would hold something or such and such. But in this case, I think we'll just go, let's say, knuckles would be here. It's really hard to communicate hands a lot of times for me. Maybe this one's good enough. I don't want to, noodle around it too much because often I would find that's when I start messing things up. So we have to keep note that we are in fact looking down on the subject now because I guess this might be our eye level and then he's seated down. So everything from here on, we try to remind ourselves that, we're looking down now. Okay. So now that our line works are established, I'd like to take this opportunity to go into the darks as mentioned by uh, what I think is a fascinating art teacher, which I just saw on YouTube. So let's try that. Let's try that theory. Um, I do want this to be like some sort of a antique brown suit combo. Um, since we're here, um, I guess we might as well add some sort of suitcase for Grandpa here, just to just to further strengthen our composition. Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll start off with the skin tone first and go with the darkest possible outcome for skin tone, including the shadows. So I'm just gonna make some dark red here. Then quite a bit of yellow. You know, just having realized this, there's quite a lot of variance in my color palette, and from the videos I've watched, often the teachers would suggest to students to try and limit their color palette. And I try to be mindful of that from here on out. So I try my best to just use the primaries and a little bit of the secondaries as much as I can. Um, okay, that's that. We'll add a little bit of blue. And another challenging part of watercolor painting for me is trying to decide where the light is, where the shadow falls, and what sort of color would we be seeing. So I feel like this might be a very saturated color, but I'm not sure if it's dark enough. Perhaps. So I'm guessing if there definitely has to be shadows that's coming from the hat. So we have to be mindful of that. Um, okay, so let's just go in. I feel like the hat might be the darkest part of this composition. And here I think I'll just add some dark blue to sort of further accentuate that darkness. Maybe we can soften our. Okay. Then if I think of more dark areas, it definitely be under the jaw here. All right. Hands. So I'm guessing the light will then be coming straight down to Grandpa. Um, I would have liked to show a little bit more dynamism with the light, but I don't think I'm in that level yet. So right now, part of me is still trying to play things safe, but I try to at the same time still keep it playful. So no, I'm just gonna add some water, try to dilute this color, and maybe add a little bit more of. Actually, I think it'd be great if you could be wearing like something um, like a classic looking blue, you know. Yeah, yeah, I think I'll try that. Like a worn out blue, sort of. So that we'll get some interesting lighting for the skin as well. Actually, I don't know, but we'll see. It's a lot of trial and error for me at this stage. So I guess if I'm gonna go with that blue, and I'm not sure about this either, but I'm not a master yet in terms of bounce light, no. So if I'm going from brown to blue, I'm going from something, it's like the opposite. So it's probably gonna end up somewhere grayish. Let's try light blue. think I forgot about the darker area for the ear here. Um, let's just put that in, and then morph the brown from earlier. I think I'll shift to a smaller brush just to draw the eyes in. I think for this one, it's not going to matter as much, so I guess we'll just go straight black here. Just to get it established. Yeah, and then I think we'll transition to a navy blue for the suit. Maybe for this one, I'd like to try and do a little bit of wet on wet action here. Um, let's go rich blue, and then we'll try and tone it back to a little bit of, with a little bit of orange. Okay, and I think some little bit of orange to keep it a little bit more natural color wise. And we'll go on with our wet on wet. I think it is important to let the water flow, and at least that's what I've seen from the videos that I watch quite constantly. And I like that from the get-go there, we already have some sense of blue mixing with both of what we had from the residue of the brush and with the runoffs from the purple that we had earlier. Okay, so from here, I'm just gonna, oh, okay, there we go. That's sort of the color I was looking for. And I want to make that uh, darker and richer and deeper later. Not a big fan of how dark this side has turned out. Would have been better if this lightness is also over the punching back here. So I think I'll just try to take some of that color out. Maybe for the pants. Actually, let's. I think it's better to focus first on the suit. Then here we'll establish some more defining folds and lines and darker areas as as suggested by Stefan Bauman. So darker areas I think would naturally be under the pits. Definitely along the folds. You know, the other thing I noticed with this is that the best artists often warn beginners like me to be mindful of how much detail I'm trying to add into the folds because it might just be the thing that would take away the sense of loathing for what I am trying to do. So I'll try to definitely keep some of that advice in mind. Okay. Didn't quite turn out to be the blue that I wanted, but I do feel happy about how the folds and the shadows have played out so far. I don't want to do too much folds because it might take away from the sense of think I'll just let it dry out a bit and then introduce more darker shading here in this area, the ones that are sort of facing away from the light, especially in this and then this area, and maybe a little bit of this area in the back. Yeah, just to overlay it, you know. Am I happy with the overall um, progress so far? A little bit. I think it can definitely be better. I think we could have gotten rid of these obvious construction lines that we did earlier. So, yeah, let that hang out there for a little bit because I don't want to do an overlay yet if it would mean that some of these more defined lines get taken out in the process. Maybe now is a good enough time. So I think I'll just try. Okay. It seems to have a bit more variance now. Um, it looks very different from when I'm looking at it in the camera than when I'm looking at it from the actual piece itself. Like right now, it looks quite a bit darker than what the camera shows. But from where I am looking, this it is dark. I think a little detail I may have forgotten is the shadows on the eyes or on the eyeballs, which is which is often a detail forgotten by beginner artists like me. Now, I'd like to noodle more with the face to maybe get a little bit more to make a little bit more sense of the area. But yeah, there's like very defined edge in there that I hope that I wish maybe I could try to blend out. We'll see how that works. That's probably enough for the um the suit. So I guess now I'll just go on to the pants here. Not quite sure yet what I'd have him wearing for the pants. Um, Safest bet would always be to just be black, but for this one I think we'll go with a dark gray or something. Or I don't know. Yeah, maybe a dark gray. A more friendly gray, not the intimidating kind of gray. I'd imagine like the type of gray that, old folks would wear to when they're going to church or something. Um, Not dark is the emphasis here. Lighter side of gray. Okay, let's start off with our dark areas. I'm quite amazed of how dark this has turned out. Um, so I think I'll just drag or take some of that away. 'Cause it felt like it stands out too much. All right. Now for the hat. Hat might be the most outstanding thing here ever because it's the one that might be really highlighted with the light. Um, let's have let's have the same colored hat for the pants. Why not? Starting this. Actually, I'll do wet on wet for this one. And right now, I would say I'm a little bit more on the playful side of painting, where I'm not trying to, where I don't feel like as if I'm forcing anything. Uh, I do wish I'd get more of this feeling whenever I'm painting. It's definitely a skill to acquire in itself, um, especially in the realms of art, especially when live streaming, where you're subject to this feeling of as if you're doing some type of a performance. in a way, you kind of are. Um, it eliminates a lot of opportunity for planning, that sort of thing. Now, not too big of a fan of what I did here. I felt like as if I watered color a bit too passively there. So, sure, if there's a way to replicate or um, rectify that, but we'll see. Okay. All right. I think we'll give him a dark outline for the hat here, and then we'll do the cane. Let's just have the cane the usual black. Now I've been trying to make like a strong black with this palette, but haven't had a lot of success that I can remember. So hopefully this time around I'm more close to getting the black that I want. Okay. Still looks a bit purple to me, this one here. Is this black enough? Let's see. Okay, I think that's good enough. Kind of a black. So let's just go. I want to leave a little bit of space here to show a little bit of a bounce light from the teal, um, outfit. Might be worth a shot. Okay. And then we'll continue on with our black. Then on to our gray, shaded gray, I would say. And from here back to our teal, because I would assume that this underside would be reflecting some of that color from the suit. Okay, happy about that. I'm just gonna run this one more time, one more pass of very transparent black, just to kind of tie it all together. I don't want to strip away that beautiful teal color though. Okay, all right, getting closer. Time for the old leather suitcase. I think I'll just go really cool red. Cool red. A little bit of what looks like cad red. Then yellow. To introduce some brownness. Now I have to say that I'm really liking that tip that was given by Stephen Bauman of starting off with your darkest values. I think it gave me a little bit more control and lesser guesswork as far as my colors. Um, so I was able to gauge a lot of what color or how dark or how light should I go. Now the problem with this is that this doesn't look like a suitcase at all. So I think we have to find some ways to communicate that. So I guess I'll just go with a dark blue here. Line that up. I just realized how well how well the opposite color pops out. For this one, this was a like a dark orange, and then for this outline here, it's a dark blue on a very dark brown. So yeah, I'm really quite pleased with how that turned out. Hopefully, it looks a lot more like a suitcase now, the thing that we want to show or communicate. Maybe if I show like stitches. Okay, so I think that's it for this stream here. And yeah, I hope I had more time to sort of explore opportunities for the background. But right now it's getting a little bit late here. But yeah, thanks for watching. See you later.